Thanks for staying with us. Yesterday, November 14th, was World Diabetes Day, and this year's theme is Education to Protect Tomorrow. According to reports, over 10 million Nigerians have diabetes, and it has killed so many people than COVID-19 or even cancer. The reason why we discuss this every single year, we touch on diabetes, and it's important because we can never stop talking about health issues. With us today is a chief consultant, endocrinologist and diabetologist, Federal Medical Center, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria Center Coordinator. We have with us Dr. Adeshina Olubi Fidelis. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Have you, sir. Diabetes, as I said, we discuss it every year, but it's always important to always bring it back to the fore because Nigerians must not forget on how to ensure they are able to take care of themselves in this condition. Could you tell us again, what is diabetes and how do people get it? Okay,
thank you. Actually, the full name is diabetes mellitus. The diabetes means a siphon because of how people who have diabetes, the symptoms they come with. Water comes in at one end, comes out at the other end. That's diabetes. You are acting like a siphon.
Okay.
You're drinking water, you're urinating, you're drinking water, you're urinating. And the other word, mellitus, means as sweet as honey. If you taste the urine of the individual with diabetes, it is as sweet as honey.
Wow.
So that's where the name comes from, diabetes mellitus.
Okay.
So that is diabetes. And diabetes is said to occur when the blood sugar level of an individual rises so high that it gets to a level it starts coming out in the urine. Normally, we have a hormone, a sort of chemical produced by the body that controls the blood sugar level. It is called insulin. So when this insulin is not produced at all, or when it is produced and it is no longer effective, then we have diabetes.
So we have two types. We've always heard that some people are born with one, type 1, and then there's a type 2, which has to do with nutrition. Could you please?
Okay, yes, more than 2 types really. Okay. We have what we call type 1 diabetes. We tend to see this in young people, although we can also see it in adults. That one occurs when the body's immune system recognizes the pancreas. It is the pancreas, the human pancreas, a portion of it that produces the insulin. But when the human immune system sees the pancreas as a foreign object, it begins to attack it. The function of the immune system is, if a bacteria enters into the body, the immune system is supposed to counter it.
Yeah.
But when the body starts attacking itself, as it occurs in type 1 diabetes, then the insulin-producing cells are destroyed. That's type 1 diabetes. In type 2 diabetes, which is the commoner type, that forms about 90% of all people with diabetes. We tend to see this in adults, but we are now also seeing it in children. That has to do with obesity.
Right.
The bigger you are, the more overweight you are, if you're obese, there's a high risk that such an individual will develop type 2 diabetes. Okay. And then we have what we call the other specific types of diabetes. You see this in people who abuse alcohol. Alcohol directly damages the pancreas, damages the liver. You have people who have other conditions. Let's say there's an individual with hypertension that you are treating. There are certain drugs that we can use to treat hypertension that can trigger diabetes.
Wow.
I mean, there are some drugs that people are abusing. Quite a lot of Nigerians abusing those steroids. I have arthritis. They said I should go and use prednisolone. If you use prednisolone, yes, the pain of the arthritis will go, but you're going to acquire diabetes, you're going to acquire hypertension.
Wow.
And you see people abusing these drugs. And then the other type, it's we say it's hyperglycemia, and that means high blood sugar that we first see in pregnancy. So in a pregnant woman wasn't diabetic prior to pregnancy, gets pregnant, can develop diabetes. But we also know that women who had diabetes prior to pregnancy, the diabetes can also continue in pregnancy.
Okay, doctor. I've seen people who were able to come out of the type 2, survive the type 2 diabetes by a change of either diet and some other things. And that is the most prevalent type of diabetes now.
Yes,
so tell us, for people who are struggling, who are still testing and are a bit in between, or they have been diagnosed of type 2 diabetes, what are some of the things they can begin to do to probably reduce or take it out entirely?
Yes. Type 2 diabetes sometimes is referred to as a disease of affluence. That's okay if you're rich and you're living it up and
the soft life.
you're not watching your diet, you're not exercising, you're adding so much weight, then you may develop diabetes type 2. So we know that type 2 diabetes you can prevent. We just don't move from normal blood sugar to diabetes. There's always a midpoint, which is reversible. We call that pre-diabetes. That's why we encourage people, please, once in 6 months, once in a year, check your blood sugar level. Because if we get you at pre-diabetes, all we need to tell you is, please, shed some weight, please start exercising, please start watching your diet, go back to that traditional African diet, high in vegetable, high in nuts, rather than all these energy-dense foods of pastries and all that. So if people do make such changes to their lifestyle, start walking, we say, please ensure that at least in a day you take 10,000 steps. But if you do come out from your house, you get into your car, you get to your office, take the lift. I got to the train station yesterday. I would say 90% of those of us that disembarked got on the escalator. Only about 10% of us went up the steps. I mean, such opportunities, you should be walking.
Okay.
I mean, those are steps to take too.
Is diabetes necessarily linked? Because, you talked about the affluent condition that it was now.
Yeah.
Is it necessarily linked to weight? And is it, you also mentioned that, the pancreas is a great source of the balance or imbalance that, causes diabetes. So what exactly would you say, aside alcohol that you said was a direct, are there any other kind of food that affects the pancreas in such a way that, because in our regular diet, things are common amongst us that you should be careful of?
Okay. We talk about sugar a lot, and I think I need to explain the causal relationship between sugar and diabetes. The truth of the matter is that you can eat all the sugar in the world and you may not develop diabetes. And you may not have touched sugar in your life and you may develop diabetes. So we talk about what we call risk factors. Why do people develop diabetes? Number one is heredity. I mean, you see that we resemble our parents. So if there's a father who has diabetes, you have inherited your genes from your parents. So you are also likely to develop diabetes if, there's a big if you do not watch your lifestyle. The fact that you inherited such genes does not mean that you must develop diabetes. No. Okay. It is if you have a gene and then you give an enabling environment to that gene to manifest itself, then you will
Let's talk about maintenance, because Nigerians are always fearful. Abroad they have insurance that can always sort it out. here people are scared of how much it costs to maintain this disease or to even manage it. So they rather just, what I don't know will not hurt me. So even though I might have it, but I just rather stay home. It's expensive to manage diabetes.
Yes, and that is what we're trying to get out. And thank you for a platform like this. It is expensive to manage diabetes in Nigeria. As you said, health insurance, it's only about 4% of people who are on it. And so majority of Nigerians who have diabetes have to pay out of pocket. And it's unfortunate, the type of medicine we practice, the type of drugs we prescribe, it is what you can afford. I mean, there are very good modern drugs to treat diabetes. There are certain injections that, you just need to take 4 times in a month. It will help control your diabetes. It will help control your weight. But each pen, I brought a sample here, will cost you 155,000 naira.
Each injection?
Yes, that's a modern medication. You
take that 4 times a month?
4 times a month. So, no, the whole pen, 4 times a month, yes. How many Nigerians? The vast majority of the people we see with diabetes, type 2 diabetes and that, are elderly retirees. So you as a doctor, you get frustrated at times that, so what type of drug are you going to prescribe? I mean, they tell you, I've not received my pension in 3 months, so are you going to prescribe an injection of 100? And so you will go back to those old drugs that have more side effects. Yes, they are efficacious, but we do have issues like that. So it is expensive. Look at a vial of insulin. For those who require insulin to control it's averagely it's about 6,000 naira. And depending on the dose the individual is on, may require about 2 in a month. And diabetes doesn't come alone. It tends to come with hypertension. It tends to come with abnormal cholesterol levels.
Wow.
So you have these individuals on drugs to control diabetes, drugs to control hypertension, drugs to control cholesterol level, drugs to prevent a stroke, drugs to prevent kidney failure from the diabetes. So
it's kind of scary getting into Nigeria, especially.
Yes. So it frustrates you as a doctor that, this individual, what can he or she afford?
Today being yesterday being the World Diabetes Day, what exactly are your activities that are geared towards this advocacy?
Yes, just like what we're doing here, the platform you're giving us, let's get the message across to Nigerians that you may have diabetes and you may not know. You may have no symptoms.
Are there some checks happening presently?
Yes, across the country. Yesterday, all of this week, we're going into hamlets and all over the place, telling people what the symptoms are. Also telling the people that there may be no symptom and you may have diabetes. So please come and check your.
That's even more scary.
Your blood sugar level. And I mean, just in a word about diabetes in the pregnant woman. We have seen a lot. And once you see a woman delivering a baby dies. Delivers, baby dies. The Yoruba cosmology is that, it's an abiku. No. It may just be that woman has diabetes. During pregnancy, that baby is in an ocean of sugar. But once it's delivered,
there's no sugar.
The sugar goes down drastically. Within 24 hours, the baby, the baby is dead. So we want to tell women like that, once that's noticed, until proven otherwise, that woman has
We have to wrap up.
Yes.
I think what I've learned from you today, aside from all the other things you said, is the fact that there are some people that come to your office and you understand and seeing that they cannot afford the kind of drugs that could actually help them cure this.
Maintain.
You have to prescribe something lower for them, and that is a need. So we always use this platform to express to many people out there, philanthropists out there, that there is a need. Diabetes organizations across Nigeria where we make these drugs available to regular Nigerians who can't afford it. I think that's a noble cause, and I thank you, sir,
Yes,
for coming
indeed.
to share this with us today. We never get tired of every year talking about these diseases because we need more awareness and education on diabetes.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome the grand comedian of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Gbenga Adeyinka the First. OJ right here, 7 of 7, like you already know.
Gbenga right here, 7 of 7, like I'm beginning to know.
It's now time for the question.
You don't scare me one bit. Bata bata, I go drink. So
Now one chance for enter. My first question. Do you remember the names of the winners of that edition of StarQuest?
of course I do.
Why do you?
And I hate myself for this because I have this question for you. Final question. No. Where outside Nigeria and what year? Think you're the only one that can be wicked.
I am thinking because I know back in the day.
Don't think. Answer my question quick. You are thinking too much. I don't like it.
The UK.
Final answer. Okay. I said, God, please, let me to perform outside Nigeria.
Wait.
And God gave me a trip, a show in Ghana. Drink, my friend, drink. I don't
overthink this thing. See where I can.
Yes, you overthink them.
I would say you should catwalk.
Let's catwalk. Where are we?
No, that's not catwalking.
That's good talking.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the part of the show where I really have a lot of fun. Why? I'm highly competitive. I'm not going to ask you regular questions with me. I'm not well. So you're going to be as nuts as I am today, yes?
Ready.
Alrighty. Sorry. Can you put it down here, please? King Dion versus Tony. Oh, thank you. See all the Lee Kuku things you do. They make me no. Who said this?
I'm going to every day closer. Girl, I want to make you closer.
Okay.
Upslade in closer.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun have you had on the show?
11, 10.
11?
10, yes.
11? Now we're going to terminate the show. Please, my producer, this is where we're cutting it. Cameraman, cut it. You don't cut. Okay, I'm just kidding.
The hottest music videos.
Check it out. Let's go.
Topping the charts. Right here on the Max World Chart Show.
So, have you ever wondered what happens behind the curtains of a man's mind? Or perhaps you're one of those who wonder what men talk about when they gather. Well, here goes. Imagine what it takes to put together the perfect cocktail. Or maybe mocktail. We need a bit of sports, a sprinkling of current affairs, some very deep topical issues, and last but not the least, a healthy dose of grumbling of those we love to hate. And yes, you guessed it, women. So, if you catch the drift, then you're onto something. We will provide you with the right insights into most of your curiosities, right here within this beautiful cocktail we call the Black Table. So, have you ever wondered what happens behind the curtains of a man's mind? Or
because he's a professor of communication at the Penn Atlantic University, who studied family therapy at the North Central University, Scottsdale, Arizona, and practices marriage and family therapy in Lagos. Welcome with us, Professor Mviwo Biakulu. Welcome to the show, sir.
My pleasure.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
On the show. Now, see, we're going to take it in layers gradually. If we let us start from the first few years of marriage, when the hurdles come and the...
So we start from the foundation.
Okay, let's start before they enter the marriage first. Okay, let's start from that. Before we enter the marriage, things are changing. You know, these days, back then, you look for a good man. Once he has a good family, good background, you give him a chance, you have a conversation, and then something can start. But today, nobody wants that foundation. They want somebody who's successful. You have a job, you have a house, you know, basics. You can't be talking to me if not to have a job. Are you okay? So, is it that things have changed? Are the principles to start dating changed? Or what should we be looking for in settling down with a partner? Because even men now are not looking for liabilities. They'll tell you, you must have this, you must have that. They tell you before in the past, the man, if you just be a young girl, come the way you are, and you get married. But now the men too are expectant that you have something in the bank. What has changed? And do you think the foundation of marriage has also changed?
I'm not persuaded that there's been any real change. Okay. I don't think there's been any fundamental change. It's simply that in the past, some of these negotiations, the pre-marriage negotiations, were actually conducted by, say, parents and relatives. At the moment, what has actually changed is that the individuals themselves, say a woman, is involved in the negotiation, in making these choices, so that the whole trajectory, the way and manner that the choices are made have actually just simply changed. But now that the actual demands have changed, because in the past, if your parents or your relatives wanted to give you away in marriage, they would be thinking, oh, is he going to be able to take care of my daughter? Does he have the resources? Does he? So all of those kinds of
negotiations. It's the same terms of engagement, but it's done by different parties.
Absolutely.
Now it is the parties involved.
It is the parties themselves who are making the decisions. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you know, back in the day, we always have people being matchmaked. Parents would, you know, go to see a family, see a budding flower, like they used to call it, then approach the parents. And, you know, the individuals involved are not even supposed to have any form of relationship before they finally get married. And it seemed like the marriage at the time worked, because the first few years is just that time where you're getting to know your partner, somebody you never knew before, you're becoming friends, and you go through the challenges. But now, we actually pick our spouses ourselves, and we're supposed to know them better. It's almost like the reverse. It's different from when our parents paired us up. What do you think is responsible for that difference, and that the fact that the marriages are no longer lasting?
Well, I would say a lot of cultural and social factors, because you see, the culture really determines to a great extent how we respond to, you know, in the marriage context, how we respond to our partners. For instance, in the past, marriage was supposed to be a lifelong project. I mean, you're all supposed to be together, whatever the difficulties. But, you know, the cultural dynamic has changed in such a way that people no longer think of marriage in that way. So the longevity of marriage, the fact that the marriage will last long or will not last long, actually depends a lot on what the culture and the society actually want, the expectations and the way that these expectations are met or not met. That's really what is happening. Because in the past, the cultural expectations are that you will be together. In some cases, of course, there were also the divorce issues and separation issues, but they were less because the cultural and social expectations are such that people will stay together and work out their differences. But right now, with the cultural and social changes, people are no longer, you know, able to exercise those kinds of examples of patience, because really, culturally, socially, it's more acceptable to divorce or to separate.
Nima.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about after marriages have been contracted. When the entire thing is settled. How to, because if you compare those days, I have seen the language of marriage be one of, there's a head daddy and there's a mommy who's second in command. Sort of that, you know, when the bringing of ideas happen, it has to be by instruction. So the head will say, okay, I am the head of this family, I'm the one to drive. And so that if the other person is a bit subtle, you seem to be querying the other party. So how does communication in marriage work between
those circumstances?
How should it work?
Well, I would say, again, I'm going to make a lot of reference to cultural elements, because you see, in the past, the whole idea of feminism, women's liberation, the place of a woman as an equal partner within the marriage context, within society, and in fact in the larger, you know, if you like, social setting or political setting, that idea did not really come to the party. Let's put it that way. Right now, things have changed tremendously. So you can see that the entire premise of relationship between couples and between male and females in society is equality. That kind of patriarchal, hierarchical system of marriage that you referred to in the past, you know, a man who, you know, he's the breadwinner, he dictates what happens. Really, that has changed. And the liberation in quotes, because really is simply a growth in consciousness. That's why I call it. I don't necessarily think of it as a liberation, just a growth in consciousness of the awareness of the equality of these two types of human beings, because there are really fundamentally only two types of human beings, male and female. And so the change in the entire cultural setup, the change in the way we think about the relationship between these two types of human beings, that's really what has changed. And communication in the past was possible, but was a different kind of communication. You see, because once you have a hierarchical kind of communication, what is happening is the big boss makes the decisions, you know, he gives the orders, and then, you know, the second in command implements them along with the children and so on and so forth. But if that dynamic has changed, then of course the communication dynamic would automatically change.
Okay, why can we go?
Do you think that our reasons for getting married these days is what is leading to a lot of divorces? Because I know that there are two reasons for people getting married. One, love. I love him. He makes my body do giz, giz, giz. One. Two, he's financially okay, he can look after me. And then maybe he becomes broke. So do you think that's what is...
I would say that there were always so many different reasons for people getting married. I mean, the most important one you may be forgetting is children. And that was always very important in the past. You see, because we thought about life as a matter of continuity on earth. So if you are not going to be there, you have children, the children will continue, you know, your lineage, your line. And so that was always very important. And I think that that's still very important to us. You see, but as I said earlier, the dynamic of, okay, what is the management of the material resources? How are we going to manage these material resources? Okay, the man earns, he brings in most of the income, but don't forget that in many traditional societies, it was not just simply the man, there was simply a division of labor. Women also worked, they worked at different, I give you the example of roboculture. The men found what they call the cash crop. Okay, in my area, for instance, it was typically the palm tree, Okay, that was the center of it, and so palm nuts and palm oil, this was really the male kind of activity. But the women farmed, for instance, cassava, which was the mainstay and the main crop for daily consumption. And so it was really strictly about division of labor. So you have a situation where it's the many different reasons why people married, they all came together in how do you manage resources, how do you manage the procreation and generation for the next line? How do you manage some of the social relation aspects? So there are so many different reasons why people married then, and there's still very many different reasons why people marry now. It's simply that the way that the two parties manage this whole process of why are we together? What are we doing here together as
Okay, I'm going to go on a break, Professor. I know you're a professor, so it's like a lecture in your class, which I get that, it's nice. It's important that the viewers understand you. So we're going to break down this conversation a bit when we come back after the break. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So we still have Professor here with us, and we're talking about marriage. And anytime we have this conversation on marriage, we always kind of say things from the female perspective. And it's important for us to have a male perspective. Do you think, whatever happened to falling in love? Like, by the time you just meet a guy, you're head over heels.
Impossible.
And does that still matter
or
today?
is it fiction from our movies?
I think it's inevitable for people to fall in love.
Okay.
And I think as long as they're human beings on earth, people will fall in love.
Can love sustain marriages?
Good question.
Some people will be like, if we don't have chemistry, so I can't marry him. If they put chemistry, can it sustain the marriage, or do you need biology, physics, and the reality that comes with it? Mathematics.
Yeah.
What exactly sustains them?
I think that's because the nature of human beings. Love alone will not keep a marriage up. You can't live on love alone. You have to live on food. You live on sex. You live on a variety of things. Live on communication. So marriage is so many different things. And so I think it's unrealistic to expect that, people will just survive only by love. Love is foundational, I agree, at least some elementary attraction between people.
Are you married?
Yeah, this is my second marriage.
Second marriage?
What happened to the first?
Baba, talk to us now. How did the first marriage?
She died.
Oh, so sorry about that.
Sorry.
I thought I was in for scandal.
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
We lived together for 39 years before she died.
So you're remarried now?
I'm remarried.
How did you, I hate to get into your private matters, but see, we need a bit of advice on love. You see, because there are lots of 40-some-year-olds, 30-some years old feeling like, I don't want to marry a widower. I don't think maybe they are widows, or they don't look that they can find love again, or when they marry somebody who is also somebody who's come from a different relationship, they don't want to make the same mistakes they made in the past marriage. So how do we start remarriage? And maybe you can help us in remarrying. What are those things we should look for in remarrying?
The interesting thing is each marriage is unique. You can never replicate it. First, because the personalities involved are different. And secondly, the dynamic of the relationship between the two is always different. So there's no way on earth you can replicate marriage. There are never two types of marriage in the world. They are just a unique system. So between the two, always unique.
Right. When you see a man, let me say a grown man.
Yeah.
What do you know about romance?
A grown man is from 18 years, don't forget.
Because I was arguing with YK yesterday that once you are 70, you have no business doing the business.
Wow, I didn't know that age had anything to do with it.
Oh, shit!
Because why can't
Because she's going to be 70 one day.
She's 62 and she's still doing the do, and I'm thinking,
She has no proof that I'm doing anything. I've never told her that I'm doing anything.
We know. You don't look 62. You look so much younger.
What you tell us in private, we know.
We know. I've not told you anything. So anyway, this is the meaning of marriage. You are supposed to be asking. The meaning of marriage. You people
I don't do publicity for book here. We're just telling everybody has a book. Please, you're just thinking that. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure having. It was good for us to have I'll put maybe an academic perspective.
Yes.
To this conversation, because sometimes we just talk about these things loosely. But it's good to understand that there are agencies, there are institutions, there are expectations, there are reasoning behind the way we do things. And it's good to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes,
it was a pleasure. We'll definitely talk about your book. We'll post it and put it on social media so that people can. And we wish you the best with your new wife.
Thank you.
Wish you the best. You have more children.
Like, that's a private conversation.
You have one?
Yes.
Professor is a lover boy. Professor, I don't trust
Professor, please, how old are you? Hey, this professor is a
lover boy.
Lover man.
Please, I don't mind them.
Thank you. All right.
Professor, tell us your age now.
Don't mind them.
You know, you are
don't mind them.
It's not so,
You're entitled to your
it's
privacy.
not so secret. It's all over in my,
okay.
books.
So you can tell us now for our viewers.
Well, let us say that I'm in the seniority graph.
Hey, he's your age.
That's 70 plus.
Okay, your age.
No, not at all. Seniority starts at 65.
Let's go on a break. When we come back, we're going to bring in other gist. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Do you think you can outplay me in this game of wits and knowledge? Can you go 7 rounds without flinching? I meant answering 7 questions correctly. How well can you hold your liquor? If you're curious, then join us for the most exciting conversation and games with your favorite celebrities on 7 of 7. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome showstopper, voice, stage and film actor, CEO and celebrity mom, Oluwabamike Olawunmi Adenibunyo, aka 2 shots in the air, bam, bam!
This is mean. I feel set up today. My guards are down. It's not fair. Guys, beg for me now. I'm hearing them saying, please.
No, can't hear anybody.
Can't you hear it?
No, they are saying you should actually drink.
When me watch this show, more history me. Drink it now. You must even up the game. Mama chased. Oh man, follow me. No.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the part of the show where I really have a lot of fun. Why? I'm highly competitive. I'm not going to ask you regular questions on me. I'm not well. So you're going to be as nuts as I am today, yes?
Ready.
Alrighty. Sorry. Can you put it down here, please? King Dion versus Tony. Oh, thank you. See all the Lee Kuku things you do. They make me. Oh no. Who said this?
I want to every day closer. Girl, I want to make you closer.
Okay.
Oxylating closer.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun have you had on the show?
11, 10.
11?
10, yes.
11? Now we're going to terminate the show. Please, my producer, this is where we're cutting it. Cameraman, cut it. You don't cut. Okay, I'm just kidding.
The hottest music videos.
Check it out. Let's go.
Topping the charts. Right here on the Max World Chart Show.
Season's greetings. Think home. Think Vento Furniture.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're still discussing family relationships and issues on Thursday, and today, and right now the next segment we're going to be discussing the topic about the fact that many couples, some couples actually, get married simply because one of the partner, the woman got pregnant. That was based on somebody's message on social media, which caught our attention. That stop marrying simply because you impregnated a woman. When we're growing up, once you impregnate a girl, you have no choice. You have to get married. I have a friend, a very close friend of mine, who that was the reason why he got married, and it was a serious friction between his between him and his wife for many years. It took them lots of years to eventually go past that hurdle and then fall in love truly with each other. But what are your thoughts on this societal stigma that forces a couple to get married simply because there's a baby involved? Do you think it's the right choice in the interest of the child, or do you think it's not necessary to get married if both of you feel you're not compatible? That's our conversation right now. You can call us on 081-270-53687, 091-390-7694. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweet. I'd like to start with BC because this kind of area is something that you're very passionate about. The things we do is because of the interest of the child. We think of the future. We don't want a child to come to be raised out of wedlock. We don't want the child to be raised without two parents. So family, friends, and make a decision. No, we are pregnant.
He has to marry you.
He has to marry you.
Yeah.
Do you think that still holds water today?
Even back in the day, it didn't hold water. But women just found a way to manage whatever they saw in that relationship. There's always this need for the average woman to want to have a child within the confines of marriage, and that is very valid. That's what we preach, that's what we hope for, that's what we aspire for. But there's something I always say: the person that you are banishing, if you get pregnant, will you be able to marry that person? Is it the kind of person that you don't mind spending the rest of your life with? I think that's one of the questions that we need to start asking ourselves. So I'm getting into this sexual relationship with this guy. Do I like him enough to be the father of my child? That's one. Does he want me enough to want to spend his life with me? That's the second aspect that we must know before the sexual event happens. Sorry, my sister. We must begin to have these tough conversations. Or even if you're not so open to those conversations, you must look at the signs around, because you can have somebody who likes you for the kind of vibe you give to him, but he doesn't want to settle with you. He has his idea of a wife that he wants. He has an ideal, would I say ideal idea of how his wife should be, but because he has not met that wife, or he has not seen the wife, or the wife has not given him.
I don't want us to talk like that. You know why? Because this new life that we are living now is different from what you're saying.
No, it's not different. This life we do now. I'm just helping our sisters say, not to get into this trap. I'm not talking about the trap.
I can land my point.
Okay.
There are girls today. That what you're saying makes sense. A lot of young girls today go to a club, have fun, meet a guy, is hot, is nice, bada bing, bada bang, it happened.
Without protection.
They didn't process this thing. I say, baby, do it.
Without protection.
They do a lot of careless mistakes.
Beautiful. Then this happens and you come back and you start crying. So I'm just trying to help those people who are still using their head.
Okay.
That if you have to do all the fun, please consider some of this, because anything can happen. Belle can come aside, and when Belle come aside, would you now want to get married to the person who you know on a normal day will not take care of you because Belle has come aside? So protect yourself. Now, when that pregnancy comes, and they are now trying to tell you, okay, you have to get, you don't get Belle, you have to be married on that, you have to be. Ask yourself, can I be in this relationship? Is it okay for me to walk away and raise my child? You don't necessarily have to force yourself into a marriage that you know will not work because you're pregnant. Because that child you're trying to protect, you will end up destroying that child. That's what I wanted to say.
The goal is marriage. That one is the goal. There are 1,001 women whose goal is get married or die trying. So their goal is to target any responsible guy, whether he's engaged or not, get belle for him.
That's
do whatever you can. When you get belle for him, disrupt his life. You show up in his mother's house who did not know you when you were his friend in the office. Show up in his father's life who never knew you existed. Come and tell them how irresponsible their son is, that you want to trap him, or you've succeeded in trapping him with pregnancies. Just because you are talking, I want to bring that angle. There's also the ones who make mistakes, and then there's the empowerment plan girls. The girls who, when the guy comes to them and says that, in my family, yes, we're well to do, but my parents just want me to be sure that, you are fertile. Their own is that it's an empowerment plan. Bros, try as much as you can. If they carry the miscarry, they will go and try and carry it again. Those are the empowerment girls. So there are girls who consider marriage the achievement, who will do anything for it. And a lot of times, these guys are victims. You will find a guy who is on his path trying to get married to someone he's studying, has all the goals, all the dreams that you just highlighted as the ideal. And one out of nowhere girl ends up spending the rest of his 30 years with him before he can get out of that trap because she came with a pregnancy. And she will insist on staying in that marriage whether they are happy or not, sad or not.
So what are you saying, Nima? I want to be sure I understand.
No.
So in that kind of situation where she feels that you are responsible for this pregnancy, take responsibility.
No.
Are you saying that
she does not just
outside?
She does not just feel
wedlock.
That she gets pregnant outside wedlock, one, but she doesn't just feel that he must take the pregnancy whether it's his or not, because she might even be certain it's not his. The goal is to use the pregnancy to get him
married.
That's Nollywood now.
Why you dey talk like this? I know they like this kind of thing. I know they even like this kind of thing. Will they bring and come? We were just assessing this
women,
Nollywood gone got
Nollywood is reality now.
Yes.
Nollywood is. Don't you see how people watch Nollywood with rapt attention? It could be I'm telling you.
Okay.
Have you watched me with those people who can gist?
Husband is number one.
They know the
girls in our house. Everything. Bow, just pause it. Just analyze. That's Can I just watch this movie?
I'm telling you, but that's the reality.
Have you seen where my girls in the house, they are watching, when they be narrating and breaking down the story, you just look at
Okay, so let's bring it back home to this conversation. Right, let me come to you, because listen, as I said, people do things with certain intentions, and the intention of our parents then was the interest of the child. And this has told us that either way, the child gets married, and that could also be a damaged child, even in or out. But you see, sometimes is the acceptability a woman gets, that you accept that this child belongs to me. I don't necessarily want to get married to you, but are we saying in this conversation now that all a woman wants is just accept the child? I don't need to marry you, because is that better than insisting on marriage for the sake of the child? That's really.
We have a celebrity case, a property recovery, where a woman decided to hold on to the properties of a man because he insists he's the father of a child and he's a married man. The man's wife said, "Okay, this is okay. Can you just ask her for a DNA so we know where we are going?" So just so she was on the part of let's co-parent, let's maintain, because I counseled all parties. The man and his wife particularly, that she agreed that if it's my husband's child, we must parent that girl. We must provide for her needs and all of that. But the baby mama said, they cannot have the sample of a child. That to ask for the sample is to question, auntie, you slept with a married man. What are we going back and forth for? She made it life tough, and she had backup from her side. Another lawyer telling her, insist on it. How does somebody start maintaining a child? Is it when the child is 20-something years before we discover whether the child is truly his or not? You are the only one who has that answer. Release it. Women should start to have this largesse of art that if you can think trapping a man is okay, think of giving him some answers. Also,
did they do the DNA in the end?
She didn't agree.
But why do we always say it's trapping?
She never agreed.
The man that went to
it is okay.
Find extracurricular activities.
It's the two of them who have curricular activities. You see, if a man wanted to have curricular activity with me, it will not happen. So we cannot be having the conversation. If my husband wakes up tomorrow and says, I want to have a DNA of these children, I will gladly submit it. But I will not. When the results come, I will not be there. That's the honest truth.
That's a breach of trust on you.
Because I have fulfilled my side. He didn't just pick me on the side of the road. That's not how we met. I have honored him before I met him.
But to me, a breach of trust, I wouldn't like that.
It's a breach of trust. Yeah. But if he needs the answers, he's going to get the answers. Just what happens after the answer might be another business entirely.
Okay.
Because then it's now between me and you. But say you want to show whether the children are born for you at your own, please go ahead every day. When you are sure, can you allow me my own peace of mind? Because I cannot be with somebody who doesn't trust me.
Yeah. I'll do everything for this child, but my son is still going to Canada. Let's know, because I'm just trying. I want to find a solution, because there are many mothers who are watching right now.
What I'm saying is actually a solution. So it's not compulsory for it to be every mother's dream. Yes. But I have seen a family friend, not many, just one person who did the same thing, and it worked out for her because that setback that boy had till tomorrow, that child was 12 years different from the younger one. That's the number of years gap they had. But that one time made that boy sit up in his life.
Did he marry the woman?
No, he didn't. But he took care of his child.
Of course, he will.
He got a job. In fact, the work experience he got was as an example. The parents got him a job instead of sending him off to school. You want to go to school? What do they do for the other side now? Because if you let him go to school, the girl grows up resentful. Sometimes not feel life out of their babies.
Can I ask you this question? What if the boy runs away? Because a lot of
girls who have been running away. Adame ran away now. Girls have been running away with pregnancies when their parents kick them out in the dark. Nobody knows what happens to the boys. Consequence must be.
We don't even see the boy.
First, the boy don't disappear.
He disappear.
We are talking as the parents of the boy. You are talking now as the parent of the girl.
No, the parent of the girl. I'm not talking as the parent of the girl. To wrap up, let me explain something. A lot of people, they meet and the parents are not even involved. I don't even know your house. We are meeting, we are in university, we are meeting in the hostel. I don't know your house. I can't tell you, say I get belay. Okay, I'm coming. You go find the boy tired. You don't know your house now.
That case. Okay, so let's establish something. So when we teach our children now, we have children that are growing up, and we tell them that every action has consequences. If you get anybody pregnant, you are going to stay away from school. You are going to do this. You are going to make sure that you take care of the child. I will not deny you. I will still love you unconditionally, but you will bear the consequences. We all say that. But the reality of the matter is, when it happens, you are processing as a parent differently. You are saying, do I pause these kids to whether the girl, I'm not saying the girl should take all the responsibility, the girl, the boy, should I pause they have so much dreams in front of them. You see your children come back, they have their A's, they have their, I want to go to Harvard, I want to go to this, I want to go there. They have all of those dreams laid out. And then this mistake, should I now say, because you have made this mistake, pause your life and go? Most parents don't think that way, and that is okay. That's selfish, but that's okay. So the thing is, okay, we can keep her here. That if actually you are the owner of the pregnancy, bring her home. She gives birth to the baby. She goes back to school. We as the grandparents will take care of the baby. We cannot throw away the baby at the bathwater. We have to be really realistic. You have made the mistake, and it's going to set you back a bit, because for that time this girl is pregnant. Two of you are going to be here to see how it's done. But afterwards, will I not keep them from not going to school at all?
After they don't born, and they will decide.
I have a story. My former boss, and I won't mention her name, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind me sharing her story. I used to work with her. She was my direct boss. She had exactly that situation. She got pregnant. Of course, she didn't love the guy. So, and the guy left, moved on with his own dreams. She gave birth to the child, left the child with her parents, moved to Lagos to start a whole new life, continued her life. Her parents diligently raised that child. That child always knew her as auntie. He called her auntie all through his life. Till he became a teenager, I think maybe until like maybe 17 or so. And they now introduced him properly. This is your mother. It was heartbreaking for both of them for a while, but explain to the boy, this is why we had to do that.
Thank you for establishing what I meant.
She now asked for his forgiveness, and now they have closed.
You have established what I meant as consequence. She did not get somebody pregnant and disappeared.
Yes.
She had a child. She suffered a setback.
Yes.
Of course, she picked up her life again. It has to be both parties. It is wrong traditionally, that has happened over years, and I've seen it change when somebody did something different. By telling her son, you got this girl pregnant, both of you are stepping out. It was in secondary school. And when they did, they got back their lives later. But that child
landed in the same.
And the mother would every month call her son when he was in town.
So you agree that nobody should be obligated. You agree.
obligated to marry. Obligated.
We didn't take
to marry.
Yes, that was Moyle's question.
We didn't take any comments on social media. Obviously, this is just our conversation.
They did not drop it on Twitter.
Fine. Thanks so much.
It's time for friendship, time for family, time for another get together. Hey, let's celebrate. Veleta moment, a happy moment. Veleta moment, share a moment with Veleta. It's time for connection, smiles, laughter and love. It's time for sharing moments. Hey, let's celebrate.
Enjoy every moment with the goodness of Veleta sparkling fruit drink. Available in 75cl and 37.5cl bottles and comes in red grape, white grape and peach variants. Another product of premium quality from Intercontinental Distillers Limited, ITL. Veleta sparkling fruit drink. Celebrate every moment.
Veleta.
There are days when you think, oh more, I don't try. Order a Glovo. Days when plans run longer. What if we order a Glovo? Or days when you can't control everything. Oh yes, because on Glovo you can order anything you want. Glovo, you order, we deliver. My brother, my sister, do you know that winning an election is not only about getting the majority vote? For that your candidate to be declared winner of the election, he or she must secure 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all states plus the FCT to be president, and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all local governments of a state to be governor. This is constitutional and every presidential candidate has had to pass this threshold. Even governors have had to make this mark to get elected in their states. We live in one country with different languages, religions and ethnic groups. This is why it is not enough to have only northern votes or southern votes or eastern votes or western votes. The only way to get elected as president or governor is by gaining enough support across the country and states. Let us make sure that we know now so that we don't cause an issue tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
This place will have a recreational park that is designed to make life comfortable. Wellness is key, and we are putting this place that will help people to, keep up on their health where they go burn their fat. And the timeline for this project is estimated to start and end within 18 months. But however, it starts in phases. The first phase is to get the space secured and gated, which is done.
Mowe is a growing city, and if you are very, very smart, then you realize that the Lagos-Ibadan expressway that is being developed is going to throw Mowe open furthermore.
People that have gone ahead of us have great investment here. And even way in the 90s, even before we talk about coming here. So I think it's a good idea, Iderade coming here.
Union Bank is 105. To celebrate our anniversary, we're giving away 55 million naira. Save 10,000 naira or more monthly. Offer open to new and existing customers. Union Bank, your simpler, smarter bank. Sound the people they shout.
All our country people, they talk with one voice. Them say that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu them want as president of Nigeria. For this president election, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu na the man wey we all know and see all the good work in they do for the country, especially when in the governor of Lagos State. Now him God use turn Lagos to the best state for Nigeria. Today, many people all over Nigeria they like to go Lagos, go settle down for business and better life. And because of the good work wey Bola Tinubu do, people of Nigeria, as Asiwaju do for Lagos, now so him ready to do am for the whole country. Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC, the party wey get broom. indigestion? Try Gestede. My recommendation for the past 26 years, Gestede. Reliable remedy for heartburn, indigestion, flatulence, and acidity.
Thanks for staying with us. So joining us on the show is the Assistant Principal Spokesman of the ruling party, APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Ajuri Ngalale. Welcome to the show.
Truly a
We'll
privilege.
be discussing why Nigerians should vote for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the next president. We're so glad to have you.
Wow.
One of the things we always say is that we know you've been doing the media rounds a lot, going to different messages, but we say, oh, you've not spoken to Nigerians until you come to your view. It's here.
I know.
Nigerians are listening.
Oh, I know.
So you are here to tell us exactly what is going on. We are very interested in three key things: education, health, and the cost of food in the market. Those three areas that will be our focus of our conversation. But let's start with the conversation I was having with YK earlier. Somebody asked her how much is fuel in the UK, and she said, how would she know? And I said, well, in the UK, you can't, all our products in the UK, those of us that bring it home, we are paying exactly the amount of money that is being paid, is being sold in the UK, in Nigeria. Same way with our fuel. Nigerians are asking, I mean, when Waike went back to remind us that we should have actually created refineries. Yeah. We shouldn't be importing police. We know that it's a given fact. We're still paying very low, below the actual rate of petrol.
Right.
How can we connect this somewhat to the price of food in the market? I don't know how we can link it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Mariah, for the opportunity. You know, the special women in my life, in my family, are all fans of this program. So to finally be here with you is it means a lot to them and to me too. Let me say first of all that, you know, of course, we have, anytime I go on to radio stations, television stations in the country, and we talk about, you know, agriculture, for example, and what we've been able to do in terms of massively substituting imported rice with locally produced rice and many of these things. A lot of what comes back to me is, then why is it that the price is going up in the market for a bag of rice, for example? And you've alluded to the energy issue, which is very fundamental. You have a situation right now, and it's no strange thing to those who are familiar with what's going on geopolitically around the world now, that with the Russo-Ukrainian conflict, energy prices have just skyrocketed. Naturally, that's going to have a direct implication on the cost of production, the cost of processing, the cost of milling rice, for example, goes up when energy costs go up. That cost is passed to the end user, the consumer. So there's no real mystery around that aspect of it. And we have to just communicate that to our people. But the other part is we do have a situation where some of the beneficiaries of the various interventions that we've made, like the Anchor Borrowers Program, where we've put over 1 trillion naira into the hands in low interest capital in the hands of over 3 million farmers. They've taken some, I want to say some, not all, but a group of them have taken advantage of the government incentives, you know, through the Anchor Borrowers Program. But then instead of doing the right thing, which is ensuring that that supply is meeting the demand of, you know, the demands of the Nigerian market, they're taking it across the border and selling it in neighboring countries to make more money, right? Which is against the entire premise of the Anchor Borrowers Program. And what that ends up doing is it creates an artificial scarcity, which exactly increases the price. So that's one major problem. Fortunately, there is a solution. And rice is just one item that's affected by the phenomenon I've just explained. But there is a solution, twofold. And it's already kind of beginning implementation, and it's also in the manifesto of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which is this. Two major points of satisfaction there. One is the issue of how we're going to establish commodity exchanges. Right now, what incentivizes that kind of unpatriotic behavior is a greedy pursuit of maximum profit, excessive profit, right? And one of the ways you deal with that is by establishing commodity boards across the country, which will establish a set base of minimum prices of all of the staple items in the country, so that every farmer in the country that is producing knows for a fact that this is the base level above which we will be able to sell. Below which items will not be selling. So there's a profit margin that is guaranteed, that they can rely on, is predictable, and then they can produce on the basis of what they know the price is going to be. That's point number one. Then the second one, which is very important, is the establishment of storage grain reserves. Now, right now in the country, we're losing about 1/3 of all produce. Imagine just 1/3 of all the tomatoes, of all the various staples that we're producing in the country. We're losing 1/3 to lack of refrigeration facilities in our rural production hubs. We're losing it to poor rural road infrastructure, moving from the farms to the markets. We're losing a lot of foods. Security is a bit of a challenge, but that's not so much a challenge as the two factors I mentioned, in which create a lot of the loss, because this is where a lot of the food is getting spoiled. So with the storage grain reserves and refrigeration facilities, in the manifesto of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what he's saying is that we are going to work with the state governments through a federally funded incentivization program that will see to the establishment of mass refrigeration facilities in all of our agricultural hubs across the entire federation. That's going to reduce a massive portion of what we're
let me
using.
pause you for a second, because it's always important for me that we're communicating. I try to make sure that your view communicates to our viewers.
Absolutely.
So what you are saying that I'm understanding is that one of the major issues of anchor borrowers is the fact that these guys, government will give you money
money as well as seedlings.
They'll give you everything, money, they'll give you the enabling environment. Your produce happens. Instead of you to sell it to Nigerians, you sell it abroad because you get more money.
That is it.
Now I'm saying to stop you from getting more money, to sell it, we'll give you a baseline. When that strategy comes in, you give a baseline money where at least you know your standard money is coming to you.
Absolutely. Nobody will sell under that baseline.
Yes, and secondly, they'll give you ability to store. So you don't have perished goods, so that you can have more.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So let's break that down.
Yes.
So storage already happens in silos, in small scales.
Yes.
I've interviewed someone who's already doing that business around K2. What are you trying to do when you talk about the big storage? Are you going to kick these business guys out of business, or you're going to collaborate with them and put them in the system? That's one. Two, what's the baseline price likely to be? Is it going to, reduce profits? Is it to regulate capitalism, or what exactly are we looking at?
And then the third question, I just wanted to put that in, is how are we going to be sure? Because you are from the same government. It's this same government that is in power.
Right.
How come they haven't been able to put all this into practice? How do you want us to believe that? Because it's the same government you're working for.
Absolutely.
And how do you want us to believe that they are actually going to come?
Well, this question you've just asked is something that goes across the sectors, right? Where naturally government is a continuum. And that's why, when we talk about the UK, we talk about the US and many other developed countries, we often forget that these countries are the product of several administrations over the course of several decades, meaning that one government lays a foundation, right? Then as you're laying that foundation, you may find that, we need to make this modification, we need to make this adjustment. Time runs out on that government. The next government comes in, and hopefully if they're competent, they see that and they make those modifications. So what happens is with President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and this is very important for context, right? We went from a situation in 2015 where we were the largest importer of rice on the entire continent. We are today the largest producer of rice on the entire continent. When we talk about anchor borrowers, it's not to boast that we've done so much. It has actually had a tangible economic effect in the sense that by substituting $4 billion worth of foreign exchange that we were paying every year, $4 billion to import rice into this country, we have now been able to substantially substitute that with local production, meaning that $4 billion we're paying to import rice that we can produce locally, we're now able to apply that to fund our budget, to build roads, to build railways, to build the things that we're constructing across the country. So it has had a good effect. Now the question is, in the process of incentivizing the farmers to produce locally, right? You can't anticipate certain problems before they happen. So you don't anticipate a certain segment of farmers to be unpatriotic, right? And to say, look, I'm going to go to Benin or I'm going to go to Niger Republic and sell this rice that government even gave me not just money, by the way, gave me seedlings, the actual seeds that I'm planting, they gave it to me, gave me even the instruments used to till and all of that, and we're still going to conduct ourselves that way. That's not something you anticipate, but once you have seen it, you will now know what adjustments need to be made to now implement and forestall it from happening in the future. So that's the nature of governance.
Okay, so you come to our own question after this break. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We still have a jury here with us. You're going to answer Nima's question about the collaboration with those who already have storages, and then the other question.
Absolutely. So we have essentially 50 years worth of deficit in terms of the non-availability of storage and refrigeration facilities across the country. So the last thing we want to do is to disincentivize our brothers and sisters in this country who are independently producing these facilities, establishing these facilities. If anything, we want to incentivize more further establishment of those facilities. So what we're doing is simply to upscale it and ensure that we have these facilities across all geopolitical zones of the country instead of just one or two food baskets. So it's really going to be a collaborative thing. Anybody who's operating independently can be rest assured that they're not only disincentivized, but they're actually going to be incentivized to continue establishing those, both private and then the public ones will be doing with the state governments. And then I think you asked the other question about the pricing of staple items once we get these commodity boards and exchanges on ground. That's obviously going to be determined by the market, right? We're not a socialist state, so we're going to ensure that the market is able to drive that, but it's going to be certainly something that's calibrated, and government is going to be involved in bringing the various stakeholders together to ensure that the price is fair for everybody involved.
Yes, so the average Nigerian, if you ask me, is living below that poverty line. We don't have that purchasing power, and Naira is really weak. And I am worried about the plans you have that your principal has to strengthen the Naira in such a way that we get back to that place where we are major exporters. How do we equip our industries to be able to manufacture? So we have a lot of natural resources, but we're not into manufacturing and modifying them into finished goods so that we can export. Is there any plan in that regard?
Absolutely. In fact, I think that's really what underpins the entire industrialization program of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is how we can make primary the role of the Naira in our economy. There are a few things that I would just unpack there, but before I do, if you don't mind, I've gotten this question a lot from Nigerians across the country consistently about the exchange rate and why it is that right now in the market it's approximately 7.75 at last check for $1 in the parallel market, etc. It's important for Nigerians to appreciate one thing, which is that we have had an excess crude account in this country since 2004, right? And from 2004 to 2015, the first 11 years of the existence of that excess crude account, we had inflows of $107 billion $107 billion in those 11 years. When President Muhammadu Buhari took office in 2015, the excess crude account had $2 billion in it, meaning that $105 billion were totally spent with really nothing to show for it. No hard infrastructure, no social investment programs, nothing, right? And as much as we don't like to talk too much about PDP and all of these things, it is very important for fact and for truth for people to understand that there is no magic bullet or magic wand solution to currency value maintenance. If you either have the reserves to bolster your currency at a time of economic shock, or you don't have it and it slides. That's the way it works. In fact, in October, the Japanese government spent $43 billion in 1 month to support the Japanese yen against the US dollar to maintain the value of its currency. This is what we're talking about. So when we say foreign reserves were spent from when Obasanjo left office, over $60 billion to less than $28 billion when Mr. President took office in 2015, excess crude account gone, foreign reserves down, all of these things, this is why it matters. When you see currency sliding and there's no reserve that you can even go to try and bolster your currency, everybody has to receive the pain as a result of this mismanagement of a few people during a time when we were making so much money. And everybody knows during the first 6 years of this administration, oil prices have been consistently low, meaning that the excess crude never even grows. So these are the issues. Now, with that said, where we are now is how do we get out of this mess that has been created, right? And a major part of this is going to be the industrialization program. His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a record in Lagos State of ensuring that there is a full vertical integration in terms of the various industries. So, for example, it's not just about producing soybean, for example. It's about how do we turn that soybean inside of Lagos, turn that soybean into vegetable oil, package it, sell it, so that we can earn maximum revenue from the items that we're producing locally. We want to nationalize that approach and basically say we must have full vertical integration, not just producing cocoa, but turning that cocoa into refined chocolate that we can sell locally and sell internationally for foreign exchange. The goal here now is in the industrialization plan. Every region has its own items of comparative advantage. So, for example, we know in the Southwest, aside from the burgeoning tech sector that our youths are driving so effectively that we're going to be incentivizing as well, you have things like high quality sand, clay, sand that can turn into a world-class glass-making industry, clay that can turn into a world-class ceramics production industry. If you go to the North Central, where you have so many different solid minerals that we can be turning, not just exploiting the raw, solid minerals and selling abroad and all of that, but actually turning that into a world-class jewelry industry. And I mean, the list goes on. So the idea is about the whole idea is basically full vertical integration. Not.
Let me ask about that vertical integration, for example, because right now there is something called the exclusive list and the concurrent list.
Right.
We don't have the right. I'm in Southwest. I don't have the right to mine my clay or to get my clay and use that vertical integration. Would the federal government be the ones to come to my territory to get the clay to produce, or would they give me the right as a region or as a state to tap in my resources to produce? How would that go?
Well, right now we've already, and this is why we have to. Our administration, I think, if there's been one shortcoming of our administration that stands out, it's effective communication information. This is one area.
I'm wondering why, because you talk.
Well, I'm not the only person, my sister, and unfortunately, there is a lot of gap to be filled, and this is the point I want to make on this issue. On the issue of solid minerals, right now we have put in place a policy that allows every state government in the federation to form its own cooperative or its own state-owned corporation, for example, that can use that vehicle of a limited liability company owned by the state government that can now come in and effectively operate just like any other organization would operate. So, for example, you say, okay, in Lagos we have a particular, or in a place like Kogi where we have iron ore and we want to mine it. All it takes is just to form that LLC with the state government in holding controlling shares, and then the federal government will give you a full license to do whatever it is you want to do on that investing and then turning that into jewelry or whatever.
Why the government's not doing it?
See, this is why we say, and this is the thing, and this is why we.
And why are they actually fighting to be allowed to do it?
It comes back to the age-old issue of recruitment and leadership. And I'm not here to bash governors, okay? But the reality is, there are a lot of opportunities that state governments have failed to look into simply because they're myopically focused on sharing the little bit of allocation they're getting from the federal government.
I have to go on a break, Aju, because I want to go back to what Waike said. There's a trust issue. Because you're saying your government, as it is right now, has done a lot to enable government and state governments to do so much more with their resources.
Sector, yes.
And the private sector. But for some reason, all we know is that they're collecting from the center. We don't know this information because I would have gone to my government and said, you're allowed to mine this.
Absolutely.
But there's a trust issue. So how do we know that the APC, that these same governors, the same party, are not tapping their resources? How would they now do so in the new administration? When we're going to break, we'll be right back. We'll talk more about this.
Stay tuned. Your view will be...
They said all men beat their wives. So why should my situation be different? They said it was a family matter, so I had no right to seek help from outside. They said women talk too much, so they deserve to be beaten. They said he was my husband, my provider, so everything he says matters, even if it's to my own detriment. They said a whole lot of things until it beat me to death.
Darkness, she's beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar. She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know they fear. She know they ever got a hand for them.
No phones at the table, please.
Oh,
Esther. I love you too.
Got everything? Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Chivita season. Oh, oh, oh. Feel this Christmas. Oh, oh, oh. Let's celebrate with Chivita.
Everyone has a Chivita this season. What's your Chivita?
Oh, what fun it is to win in the Lush Hair Braids to Millions promo! Christmas came early. Everyone is a winner in the Lush Hair Braids to Millions promo. Get free 100 megabytes MTN data and a chance to win 1 million naira, a car, generator, and other amazing prizes. Simply buy Lush Hair Wow, Ready, Jumbo, or Mega Braids Pack. Open the pack flap, SMS your unique PIN to 38353. Hurry now. Terms and conditions apply. Lush Hair. Be beautiful.
Gentlemen, make welcome pioneer Positive Force member, dancing queen of the 80s, non-conformist, Afrobeat historian in her right, and long-standing member of the multiple award-winning all-female show Your View, Omoyeni, Yeni, Anikulapo Kuti, aka YK Power! Ginger,
take it.
Today we'll go here.
Hey, I don't read you.
Are you sure?
I'm not here to answer questions. I'm here to drink.
We're in trouble today.
Wait till your age.
I was close now.
I
said 1975.
He said 73. He said 75. Fellas wasn't even born till 75.
So will I drink half?
You go drink. Take. Make I help you. Russian.
No be half.
Which half? You will make me drink. I'll give you a hint.
Lights in no. Nepa Road. Nepa Road in Abeokuta.
First of all, my brain cannot memorize everything.
A big black bug.
A big black dog.
Bug.
company to mine their resources themselves and get approval from the government. Now, many state governments are not doing that. So, and that brings in the issue of trust that Waike was saying earlier, that if even within your party, they are not adhering to the opportunities that your principal had laid down, how do we know that this same APC government and this same government that will come in, they will do exactly what Asiwaju ever lays down in the next 4 years?
It's very important to note that President Muhammadu Buhari can create the opportunity, he can create the environment for opportunities like this to exist, which he has done. He cannot compel a state governor to do what is in the interest of that state. That is what the people of that state elect that governor to do. If he cannot do it of his own volition, what can we do to help him to do his job? For example, the point I want to make is that in Lagos State, I'll give you an example. The Lagos State government has controlling shares over a company called Ibile Oil and Gas Company, right? It does not say Lagos State Oil and Gas Company, but at the same time, they're controlling that company. They have been able to leverage on the opportunities that exist in terms of domestic gas processing and utilization, providing domestic processed gas and all of that to the local market. That has had major revenue impact on the Lagos State government coffers. This is because the Lagos State government had the foresight and the understanding that we need to, as a state, take advantage of the opportunities that are present. The president didn't have to compel them. They knew what to do in the best interest of their state. Now, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man who laid the foundation, the roadmap for Lagos State to be the kind of state that would key into all of these opportunities, not just federal opportunities, but even the ones that are homegrown, the ones that are within the confines of what Lagos State can do as a fairly autonomous entity. They've taken advantage in terms of revenue generation and many of the other things. So the point is, we do have states that are keying in, but competence is not universal. Vision is not universal. What we can do is to ensure that we guide, we create the opportunities, we let them know about the opportunities, but we can't force the donkey to drink.
Let me just agree with you on that one, because if you talk about this ecology fund and the flood that will suffer this year, you'd see a clear example of competence not being general. Now, it's really confusing talking to you, being on this present administration side and then being on the campaign trail for the same party on another side, telling us things that you can do that we see that has not been done here. I do not understand the consumer credit system thing. Can you break it down clearly?
Yeah, absolutely. This is fundamental. The main kind of role I'm playing today is looking at His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Renewed Hope Manifesto and what exactly he's doing across sectors. It's not because I cannot spend 3 days breaking down all of the infrastructure projects, all the social investment and everything that President Muhammadu Buhari had successfully achieved. But for lack of time, we'll look at the consumer credit system. This, I think, in my own personal opinion, I believe that this is going to be probably the most fundamental aspect of the entire manifesto of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because it affects not just the life of every Nigerian, but it cuts across sectors. And I want to explain exactly how this works. So we know that a major motivator for corruption in the country today is the fact that we're asking Nigerians to go and find money outside of their legitimate income, to go and buy a car up front with cash, to go buy a house up front with cash, to go and buy refrigerator and freezer up front with cash. We know that in any serious war on corruption has to now involve proactive measures that would go ahead of the problem rather than maybe focusing on prosecution and recovery after it's already been done. So one of the things that we're really focused on now is the establishment of this consumer credit system, which is going to involve a few things. One, we are going to, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, provide certain incentives to the banking industry in this country, all the banks that we know. We're going to provide things like enhanced monetary policy ratios, enhanced interbank settlement offers, and other incentives to incentivize them to create a bulk percentage of their lending, to set it aside for lending to the real sector, lending to the low-income and middle-income Nigerian citizen on low interest. So that's how that's going to work. We're also, while we give the carrot, there's also going to be a stick, meaning that if you are not complying with the need to ensure that Nigerians, the common, low income, middle income Nigerian, if you're not complying with the need for them to access cheap capital, then we are going to also create disincentives for you. So we're going to both compel you and incentivize you at the same time. That's point number one. Point number two is it's going to affect multiple sectors. So we recognize that if you're going to create millions of jobs constructing homes across the country, or millions of jobs producing automobiles across the country, not just at Innocent, but across the entire country, it requires a need to ensure that there is offtake. Because if you're paying so much to construct homes, you need to be sure that at the end of it, a Nigerian is able to take that home and pay for that home. Now, how are we going to do that? This is how it's going to work. His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has laid it out in his manifesto that essentially on day one in office, as soon as the 10th Assembly is inaugurated in June, after he would be inaugurated in May, we're going to immediately reform the Land Use Act to standardize all of the processes and timelines around how developers will be able to access land in the country. We recognize that today it's a constitutional prerogative of the state governments to control access to land. So what we want to do is we want to ensure that whether you're in Kano, Lagos, Port Harcourt, or Bauchi, or Kogi, or any state of the Federation, you don't have a situation where in one state you can, from the time you submit your application as a developer for land to be able to build an estate, that it's 6 weeks in this place, but in another state it's 7 months, and you're paying bribes to the State Ministry of Lands and all sorts of problems because they have not streamlined their process. We want to standardize that process so that the timelines are the same, the procedures are the same, everything is the same, with the exception obviously of property valuations, which cannot be the same. Now, once that has been standardized, that's step one. The second step is we're going to provide tax credits and rebates and grants to all developers in this country, whether indigenous or whether foreign, who want to come in and build estates, that we're going to give them these tax credits and rebates and grants and incentives to ensure that they devote as much of their development, not to high-rise buildings and mansions for rich people, but to social housing. So in exchange for devoting as much of your development as possible to social housing, that is housing for low-income and middle-income Nigerians, we're going to be giving you these tax credits. And if you're building for the wealthy, that's your choice, but you're not going to benefit from government incentivization. Then that deals with the development side of it. Now, the third level is that once we have done that, because we have incentivized the banks, the banking industry in the country to set aside trillions of naira worth of cheap capital for lending to the low-income and middle-income Nigerian. That person, that low-income Nigerian saying, look, I'm a civil servant, I earn 120,000 naira a month, right? I want to own a home. I can give you my employment letter, I can show you my years of service, I can even show you my bank records to show that for the last 10 years I've been earning this much consistently, I've had these inflows consistently and all of that. So there's predictability. Once there's that predictability established, we can now say, okay, this is a faithful payer. We can rely that out of the 120, this person can afford to pay 20,000, 25,000 naira a month on a lease to own arrangement where he's paying monthly toward ownership of that home. Now you ask the question, how can that be enough? 25,000 naira a month. It sounds tiny, right? But this is what we found under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. And this is where we say, when we say Mr. President laid the foundation, this is what we mean. Through the economic sustainability plan that we put in place during COVID under the chairmanship of His Excellency the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, what we found out, we did a lot of research and we now implemented, is we found out that you can construct a one-bedroom house for 2 million naira. You can construct a 3-bedroom house, totally finished, from start to finish. Bathroom, 3 bedrooms, kitchen, everything, parlor, everything, for 3.75 million naira, finished. Then for 4-bedroom house for about 4.25 million, finished, 4 bedrooms.
Not in Lagos.
No, I'm talking of just the construction of the actual house. I'm not talking of land and all of that. I'm just talking about the house itself. Okay. So what the point is, when the profit incentive, when the focus is not how to make as much profit as possible, and you're just trying to provide the house for the citizen, if that is your goal, it can be done cheaply. So we can provide 15-year mortgages on 20,000 naira a month to the Nigerian worker, to the Nigerian civil servant, and also people who are in the private sector. The woman who owns a market stall, but she can show us that for the last 5 years, 10 years, this is what her income has been on a sustainable basis.
Okay,
it's revolutionary. This thing is revolutionary. It's not politics.
Let me go on a break. I would like us to ingest that a bit, understand that, and I'll come to BC when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view.
Every harmattan, he falls sick so frequently and misses school often. I keep him away from junk food.
She also feeds him apples. She says an apple a day keeps...
If you want to keep germs away, then use Dettol soap regularly. Germs and disease spread easily during harmattan. For this, use Dettol soap. Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Be inspired with inspirational quotes and win in the Top Tea Taste to Know Inspiration 2.0 promo. Enjoy inspirational quotes and get a chance to win free airtime or 10,000 naira cash prize. Simply buy a pack of Top Tea, collect inspirational card with unique letters to spell Top Tea. Take a
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move weigh in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome pioneer Positive Force member, dancing queen of the 80s, non-conformist, Afrobeat historian in her right, and long-standing member of the multiple award-winning all-female show Your View, Omoyeni Yeni Anikulapo Kuti, aka YK Power. Ginger.
Take it.
Today we'll go here.
Hey, I didn't read you.
Are you sure?
I know. I'm not here to answer questions. I'm here to drink.
We're in trouble today.
Wait till your age.
I was close now.
I
said 1975.
He said 73. He said 75. Fellas wasn't even born till 75.
So will I drink half?
You go drink. Take. Make I help you. Russian.
No be half.
Which half? You will make me drink. I'll give you a hint.
Lights in no. Nepa Road. Nepa Road in Abeokuta.
First of all, my brain cannot memorize everything.
A big black bug.
A big black dog.
Bug. A big black bug.
Oh, sorry. A big.
It don't start.
Ọmọ ọmọ fẹlá ọmọ Anikulapo Kuti. Wọ́n rò pé kí ni kékeré yìí.
It's by Audison. It's not by Audison.
naira. Serenity at its finest.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have a jury with us. Yes, Nima had a question. Go ahead.
On security, because our eyes have seen. Our eyes have seen paper.
Yeah.
What exactly will be modus for Ashiwaju if he comes into power to combat security, because Buhari did a lot of things, anchors borrowers, but every 10 gains they lost with security. Farmers were made to pay taxes to militants and all of that before they could carry their products out. How do we combat this issue once and for all, so that all the gains in education, back to school and all of that, and farming, we will see them?
Thank you very much. Security is an area where, and again, this is one of the major conversations I have with Nigerians across the country, is one in which we measure our progress according to where we were and where we are now, not in terms of whether it has fully ended or not. So you recall that in 2015, when Mr. President took over, we had bombs going off across the country, all over Abuja, Kano, Kaduna, you name it. Almost there. I was in the newsroom in those days when every single weekend we had a major bombing across the country that we were grappling with. Now we've gone from a situation where those tax collectors that you're referring to, who occupied nearly a third of the northeastern geopolitical zone in various states, we have totally pushed them out. There's nothing like tax administration or any type of insurgent administration by insurgent groups in the country today. Fully flushed them out. But we have seen, and obviously the bombings across the country are no longer happening. There's not been a single bomb attack in Abuja, thank God, since Mr. President took over. But the truth is that we still have the evolution of new threats. We have like bandits now, for example. Now,
kidnapping.
Kidnapping is not really new. That's
surged up.
It became worse under Buhari's administration. What would be different?
Yes, exactly. That's where we're going.
I know what I'm asking you. What would be different?
No, I'm answering you, madam, but I have to answer you with context. I don't want to just say something.
Okay.
So the point is, this is what we've been able to do so far. Now, to your point about His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's being very clear about the fact that there are a few things that need to be done. One, he's going to establish the anti-terrorist battalion. He wants to enhance specialization within our armed forces to deal specifically to the dynamic threats we face across the various theaters of operation in the country. His Excellency Asiwaju Tinubu is saying that we want to now establish a forest guard reserve that in real time, and this is part of the whole proactivity versus reactivity reorientation we want to conduct. In real time, we want to surveil all of our forests. We recognize that with drones, when you're flying over a forest, you have all of that tree cover and all of that. There's a limitation as to what you can see. We want to actually man our forests, particularly those hotbeds for bandits and kidnappers, so that in real time we can surveil them, equip them with unique transportation platforms, communication platforms, and of course the weapons that they need to be able to in real time surveil, so that we don't even leave open spaces for them to coalesce, gather, and plan attacks and kidnapping operations against our people across the country. I think that's going to be a major innovation. In addition to that, we also have to massively, upgrade both the quantity and quality of our armed forces. Meaning that we'll recruit many more men across the various services, Navy, Air Force, and Army. But in addition to that, the quality of the men that we are bringing, men and women rather, that we're bringing into the service is going to be heavily prioritized. Same with the police. We want to have the very finest that we have. I'm not saying we don't have very fine men and women now. We certainly do. You've seen the excellent work they've been doing across the country. But we want it to just progressively get better and better and better. Ensure that recruitment is not on the basis of who you know or where you come from or who you worship, but on the basis of your individual quality. Then the last point on that, which is very, very fundamental, is His Excellency Asiwaju Tinubu is saying that we want to bring in a new federal compensation package for our armed forces that is going to ensure that any member of the armed forces, male or female, who makes the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our nation. And by the way, that's another issue. We don't celebrate our armed forces enough in this country. In fact, we tend to blast them and condemn them and underappreciate what they're doing instead of praising them for the sacrifice that they're making that most people are unwilling to make. But on top of that, we're going to create an incentive, not an incentive program, but a compensation program so that all the widows who are left behind will receive a new benefits package monthly to ensure that they never have to worry about baseline economics of their household after their loved one has made the sacrifice. And secondly, we're going to provide scholarships for all of the children of the fallen heroes of this country. Those are some of the major things that we're going to
There's a question I want to ask you because we're running out of time.
I wonder where all this money is coming because everything sounds so.
That's the same question they asked in Lagos. They said, "Where's the money going to come from?" How did His Excellency Asiwaju Tinubu revolutionize the Lagosian economy?
Let me bring you to Lagos because one of the strongest points the proponents for Asiwaju are leaning on is his success and the foundation of Lagos State, which we see. But these critics will say, why they keep using Lagos? Because Lagos used to be a former capital. They had all this infrastructure. There was some development in Lagos. So there was nothing much that Asiwaju did. That's what these critics say. I'd like you to address that because a major argument these critics use against this Lagos foundation that we all say that he did.
See, so this is the thing, right? We get into this a lot, and people like to make vague, generic, and general arguments without any kind of respect for detail and data. So, for example, somebody will say, Lagos is a former capital, like you said. What has he actually achieved? Forgetting that in 1999, living in Lagos, you were here. I don't have to tell you who were here. What the infrastructure was like, even as a former capital, through all those military regimes, all the neglect, what was going on in Lagos State, the roads that were impassable. What was life like around the ports for the last 40 years, consistently, where you had potholes the size of vehicles, right, and all of that. Total transformation. And some of that obviously has to do with President Muhammadu Buhari's investment in the Apapa-Warunsheki Tollgate Road and several other federal investments. But in terms of what he has done in the state, you had a situation, he inherited a health sector. All of Lagos State, former capital and all the things that people say. One ambulance. Try and imagine with me, you have a whole state, a federal capital, you have one ambulance. That is the level of decrepit neglect that Lagos had fallen into at that point. That's just one sector. How much more the schools across the state, the health sector, revenue generation. Revenue generation was essentially a kind of a kleptocratic feudal system where you just pay some middleman somewhere, and that's the end of the day. That's the end of the game. What we have. But they worked on a roadmap. My sister, His Excellency Babatunde Fashola, who is like a very senior mentor for me, told me directly, the same way he has told Nigerians on television and radio, that he could not have achieved what he achieved in Lagos State without the roadmap that His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu laid. So if the men who succeeded His Excellency Asiwaju Tinubu are the ones coming out to say how important his plans were and how important his mentorship and guidance was in seeing through the roadmap that he established, how can some third party who was not involved at all now come and say it was this person and not the person who started it? It doesn't make any sense. So I would rather take the word of the successors than the people who are trying to say otherwise. But the point here is that my sister asked a fundamental question, which is, where are you going to get the money from? This was the point that people were making in Lagos State early on. Is when His Excellency Asiwaju Tinubu talked about an intrastate rail line, for example, a metro rail and all of that. People say, what kind of vision is this? This one no be America. We only get one ambulance for entire health sector. Look at, not even basic road is available, and you're talking of rail line. Today, what is happening? The rail line, how did the rail line come about? It's not by dreaming. It's not by fiction. It's because he put in place a situation where we could move the revenues from 600 million to tens of billions on an annual cycle, even hundreds of billions now annually. The point is where you have vision, and where, most important, vision is just one part of it. The part of manifesting the vision has to do with putting the right people in the right places. I can tell you, as somebody who is sitting in President Muhammadu Buhari's government as an SSA to the president, and I don't hide this, is that His Excellency Mr. President has achieved so much with a grand vision for the country, laying the foundation in agriculture, infrastructure, social investment, and all these other things that we know about, massively arming the armed forces and all these other things. But there has also been a challenge in terms of officials at the senior levels of government who are not and I'm saying some, not all. Of course, we have a Babatunde Fashola, and we have several other very competent officials who are doing a great job every day. But there are also some who do not implement what the president's vision is across some of these sectors.
The point here is that every administration
has had a situation where the president will have to sack and replace, right? This president has sacked and replaced ministers. It happened not too long ago, right? So the point here is that His Excellency Asiwaju Tinubu, a big part of his success is not that he just has great plans and a very sophisticated intellectual mind around developmental issues and all of that, but he also goes out of his way to say, this man or woman can do this, and if I have to go to Anambra to get that person, I will go to Anambra. If I have to go to Zamfara to get this person to do this, he will do it. How many other state governors can say they did that? How many officials can say they think like that? And so this is why we have confidence that His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will deliver on his manifesto, because he knows he can deliver.
We have just a minute left, so go ahead.
How do you want to Nigerians to? I want you to sell your candidate, because let me tell you how Nigerians are thinking. They feel that his age is against him. A lot of people feel his health is against him. And the third thing is, our president now goes abroad for treatment, and they're saying, if you build the hospitals here, you will not go for treatment. How do you want to tell us that, your principal will
do that? Let me add to that so you can answer yours just to add to YK's own. Because right now it seems like we have a Jelenke presidency, and what Nigeria needs is somebody that can come and scatter anywhere and get everybody to work. Can Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu do exactly that
at this time?
Fantastic questions. So I think let me start from the issue of the health and provision of hospitals and traveling abroad for medical treatment. I think on that issue, people downplay the fact that an individual's relationship with their personal doctor is absolutely personal. That is not a public thing. If there's somebody you have been seeing for the last 40, 50 years, who knows all your entire personal history, your ailments, your strengths, and all of that.
That's why your doctor here at jury. Bring your doctor to Nigeria. Don't do us like that. You're not doing that one.
No, we have to be truthful.
Bring your doctor to Nigeria. Let your doctor come and use the facility here to see you.
Please allow me to address my issues.
No, it's wrong now.
No, it's not wrong. If you have a personal doctor in any part of the world and you have that relationship with him and you're funding it yourself, you have that choice as an individual to maintain that relationship. Do you
After you've entered public office?
But if you choose to
bring your doctor here. There's no
if you have a doctor that
I have to wrap up on this.
Okay. Because there's a lot. Anyway, we wasted a lot of time with that. The point here is that that's the nature of that relationship. That has nothing to do with the fact that in Lagos State, for example, where we have the Duchess International Hospital, which was co-funded by the Central Bank of Nigeria under this administration, right, where His Excellency the Vice President did a major leg surgery as well very recently. What we're saying is that it's not just the public sector that will provide healthcare institutions in the country. We need to also incentivize the private sector the way that Mr. President has done and continue to do that. His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was one of the first governors in this country that was able to attract mass, world-class specialist hospitals to Lagos State through the policies that incentivized the establishment of those institutions.
We have to run.
We had more time, but I'll come back.
We'll bring you back. We have more questions. We have a lot of questions for you, and I think you've been able to handle most of it. But that's all we can take. Thank you very much. As I said, if you want to talk to Nigerians, you come to the
I hope I will show next time you come back.
No, we have to.
That is all we can take on today's show. We'll bring Ajuri back because I'm sure we have lots of messages and questions. We'll bring you back to talk on the issue that Nigerians are still thinking that they can get some answers. That's all we can take on today's show. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.